Hey YouTube, this is Red Cell Gorilla. What is going on, my dirty apes? Today we're going to go over defeat white cell strategy. And I did have a really long one for you, but I think I'm going to shorten it and just go through the basics. Now here's our agenda. We're going to go over the disclaimer, as usual. Who, again, is white cell? White cell violence. Can white cell be defeated? White cell infrastructure and becoming white cell. Now the disclaimer. Please don't be that guy. The discussion on this slide deck conversation and the videos contained on this channel are not explicit directions. This is only designed by Red Cell Gorilla to be informative and instructional for educational purposes only. Red Cell Gorilla is not telling viewers to actually do anything illicit, illegal, or anything at all. This is simply a discussion on materials that are open to the public. Most of what is discussed on this channel is an explanation of ATP 3-21.8, which is an instructional tactical pamphlet open for public distribution from the United States Army. The title of ATP 3-21.8 is the Army Platoon and Squad. Now, who again is white cell? In war games, white cell is out of play. These guys are the guys who grade who lives and dies and how well a unit performs out in the field. For the purposes of the guerrilla, white cell is the command group or higher group of blue 4 and possibly green forces. These are the people that control everyday aspects of life, and we're just not going to take it anymore. White cell includes and is not limited to political office structure, bureaucratic office structure, controllers of high-level uniformed military officers, and police forces. This is at every level from city, county, state, and federal level. All right, so you guys already see what's up there. That's what we're going to take care of. White cell violence. White cell violence is conducted at a desk where they decide together, fuck you, and make a law to take from other people. It's literally theft, it's just legal. You have to stop and recognize yourself as a slave because this is all you are to them. And I know, you guys are going to be out there, I ain't no slave, and go ahead and shout it at me, I know, but before most of us were born, the national income tax became a thing, ratified by Congress in 1913, and your income is not yours. If you don't give them your income, they will come take all of it. And in 1973, the US dollar was removed off the gold standard and its worth was placed on oil as a petrodollar, and you can see how we're trying to get rid of oil. So your money is worth literally nothing. Can you stop working today and keep what you own? Or will the bank repossess a vehicle or other item? Or your house? Is the bank going to have the sheriff come evict you from your house? Your land is worth the most, and white cell knows it. There's not been any more land being made. It's highly likely that the car you're driving is the bank's and not yours. You're just paying for it every month. Your house is also probably the bank's and not yours. You are renting it to live in it. I think each man and woman should recognize and question in their home what do they actually own. And you're probably going to come up with things unnecessary for life, like a handful of books, chairs, a table, bed, TV, all the things that you have in your home that you probably don't even spend a lot of time in. And that's it. That's all you own. You don't own the house. You probably don't own the land. You probably don't even own your vehicle, which is your way to travel away to some other place so you can get away from white cell. They own you. Their violence is words in the pen. It has become mightier than the sword only because we have refused to wield our swords. Which, by the way, they have no actual answer for. They have to use blue force because they don't know what to do whenever the masses come and start cutting off their heads. See France, circa 1770s. Now, red cell is able to defeat white cell. Can white cell be defeated? Yes, but it's probably going to take violence. We make up more of the working class, but almost all of our work goes straight to white cell members through taxes and other legal means. The next turnover of wealth is likely to, it's already starting now. They've already said that, hey, it's the fourth industrial revolution, and this is going to be the largest wealth turnover. And I'm not exactly sure why they need all this wealth. They already have all of the money. So, All I know is that it's not for my benefit and it's not for your benefit that they're stealing all the rest of the money. But yeah, during the fourth industrial revolution, they have already come out and said AI is probably going to take over most computer jobs. So they are not going to need you at all. So now they don't even need to produce anything because it's going to be very communistic, where we just get you a mechanic's uniform, kind of like in 1984. That's the only uniform you're allowed to have. That's the only thing you're allowed to wear. And it probably doesn't even have to be repaired because fuck you, we don't need you to be alive anyway, because they fully believe in having a world population of 500 million or less. It's currently at 7 billion. So are we going to be part of the 6 billion that have to die because they're a bunch of scumbags, or are we going to fight? So how do you defeat white cell? Well, you have to change them in your minds to be a military valued target. They are actually the most valuable military target. We know this. That's exactly how we do it in other nations. Whenever we would decide that, hey, the U.S. is going to go take over Afghanistan, we destroy whoever is in power there, and then input our own dude. So if we're just going to use violence, then yes, you would just take out whoever is white cell and put in your own dude. But we also don't want to perpetrate the violence. This is one of those things where it's like, hey, our final solution can't be, well, let's just start killing a whole lot of people, right? That's not very morally justifiable. But these folks who have already attacked us, yeah, I would say that that's morally justifiable because now this is out of self-defense and absolute fucking need. Otherwise, we're going to be moved like cattle into probably the center of the United States because they've poisoned everywhere else so they can go live on the oceans. Right, they're moving everything to be kind of like Pan Am. If anybody's read the books on the Hunger Games, right? So they're already moving all this stuff that way, attempting to, at the very least. So yeah, food, water, and shelter, and land is the most valuable resources, and they know it, and they have almost all of this. They probably own the banks that own your land. And these laws that they have put in for themselves have been written fairly recently in human history. You don't necessarily have to resort to overt violence if you do a few major things. And one of those is that we become white cell in our own areas. The county is going to have to come together. The humans of the county, not the current white cell, are going to have to come together outside of the political sphere and ensure that they know the ongoings of the county. You have to be very in-depth, check and hold accountable those in your county, and yeah, most laws in America are not going to pass a so what test. Certifications, licenses for every little aspect of life hinder the cause of freedom and actual progression, right? If you want actual progress, let people do whatever they want to do. They will surprise you, right? But for right now, if you want to use a ham radio, you got to be licensed. You want to own a business, you have to be licensed, right? So if you want to make your own money, you have to be licensed. Those licenses come with a fee and a tax most of the time every year. Similar to, do you own your land? You're going to get taxed on owning your own property. The reality is white cell only gains power through these taxes and then uses the appropriated funds to steal more funds via Blue Fort. Think about somebody coming up and writing you a ticket for speeding when that time could probably be better used for protecting the community from, I don't know, drug dealers and violent crimes. But they're not going to do that because it's an easy win for them to go steal money from you. Now, white cell infrastructure. The press or mainstream media is a vast propaganda arm of white cell. It's owned by 6 or 8 companies who all work together. For the guerrilla in a strategy, you must either target the mouthpieces, i.e. the people giving news, and unalive them, ensuring that they know, hey, fuckstick, guess what? Your lies are going to get you killed. Or the equipment must be destroyed to keep them from using their voices, right? Now, this equipment is expensive. Even for white cell, this is expensive. That's why they put so much money into it. Physical stations and equipment must be destroyed. But these people cannot fight a total war and don't understand how to. And they know it. When they come to do a story on how a radio or local TV station was destroyed, Red Cell is going to have to cordon off the area and ensure that the quote unquote news doesn't come in. Those dickbags are not there to help. They are literally only there to paint normal, critical thinking people who have no other means to defend themselves in a bad light. The message is constant and consistent. Do not think, do what I say, do what the government tells you. And I think a lot of folks are just ready to not do that anymore. This means that the stations themselves, vans, communication equipment, and the electronics, not necessarily the buildings, but the electronics, must be either controlled by Red Cell, destroyed by Red Cell, or constantly and consistently harassed by Red Cell. People are typically easy to identify by a camera and some dumbass with a microphone out there in the field. You've seen them on TV. You just have to follow these people. You can call it doxing if you want, but a lot of the time, if you know their names, most people just end up leaving the location function on in their Facebook and have Facebook running in the background on their phone. This is a great, easy tool for identifying targets. You don't even need to have a warrant, even though I think most Blue 4 agencies have a constant, consistent warrant that is always approved to check out somebody's location on their phone. Awesome, right? Now let's go to banking. Banking's got to be hit in the same way as well as other electronically dependent businesses. Remember, the bank is typing in an arbitrary number in order to make you, as the Green 4 person, pay an arbitrary fee. These numbers are no longer real, and the money that they are using is also no longer real. Server destruction is a very viable way to collapse these pretend businesses. It's very much the same for a credit business or credit card business. Think very much reminiscent of Fight Club. The entire point of the movie was to destroy the information held on the services for the credit card companies and the banks. We know this works because White Cell has already conducted this exact type of attack on its own information, like in the Tennessee AT&T bombing directly after the election, specifically on servers that held the actual election data. Right? So they destroyed the data probably because they knew it would work in our favor and people could be like, oh yeah, 81 million votes. Didn't actually fucking happen. But the cloud are still physical servers that just keep less information for shorter periods of time. These are still physical data banks that can be destroyed. Bankers themselves, or the people that work at the banks, are what I would consider green forces. Janet, who's been a clerk for 50 years, is probably not a direct threat. But the rich-looking dude on top of the third-story building that visits the peons once a month, go ahead, man. Why not? Now, political machine. Focus on your county and maybe the surrounding counties after your county is clear. Why? Well, in a county, you as Red Cell might actually be able to influence who is in each position. If you like them, this is fine. Tailor fit, right? But you have to pay attention to what they are actually doing and laws that are being written, which, if we're going off the United States Constitution, no laws should be being written at all, period. I don't care what it's for. No laws should be being written. And if you don't like what they're doing, the best thing to do would be attempt to run against them, whether you are a part of that political party or not. That's a freedom thing. But if you can't win and you truly feel you've done all you can, I think that it's probably the okay point to be like, oh, hey, we're going to get violent now. The thing is, the rules and laws on the books are really the things that need to be destroyed. This becomes an issue because as a guerrilla, we don't necessarily need to destroy all public record, because once you become White Cell yourself, you could end up being wielded against the green forces you're trying to keep free, because some rando can come up and claim, hey, I own this house that somebody else is living in, and that maybe they've actually taken away that house, or maybe they haven't done anything, and it's just some douche trying to pull a fast one on you. So I wouldn't say try to destroy all public record, because you might need those records to be like, oh yeah, that's right, Jim actually does own this house, and not Billy Bob over there, but Billy Bob is trying to claim that he owns said house, or that a child belongs to another person. You get all kinds of weirdos, man. Now, education. A lot of education higher-ups are people who have been placed or voted in and are totally cool with teaching your children that boys can be girls and girls can be boys, and traditional values of the right side are completely wrong, and that math is somehow racist. But I wouldn't go on destroying a school building. Just ensure that children are being taught to think for themselves, because a teacher should not be allowed to push their worldview on the children. This is one of those things where it's strong families make strong communities make strong counties make stronger states, right? Homeschool. You can homeschool them. Homeschoolers can learn a lot, and homeschoolers might not learn that much. It just depends on the parents teaching the children. But there are things that are important that aren't being taught in school, like how to run your own business. If this is something that you want to attempt to have placed in school, you're going to have to be active on your school board or just homeschool. I think homeschooling is probably the much better option to keep your child safe. The issue becomes, are you willing to allow evil people to teach other children as well? Because at some point, those children are going to become adults who are spewing the exact same bullshit the teachers are spewing now. We already see this, right? In another 4 years, college is going to be filled with the exact same people who are looking at the board saying, yes, 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 I agree with all of this, and it's just a thought police program. From experience, the school board is typically a cabinet of one elected member and several unelected members, and these fuckers don't usually have kids. They love thought control programs and are unwavering in their falsehoods. I would say that the Department of Education, you can probably physically remove those white cell members, and I don't really want or care about teachers either. They are likely not considered green forces because, yeah, they're on the lower end of white cell, but their game is indoctrination and the extreme will that they have to spread that indoctrination is complete. They don't care. They don't want to get fired, and even if it's not a, hey, I don't want to get fired thing, it's a, I fully believe in the Communist Manifesto, and I'm going to push that into everybody's face, right? Homeschool is probably a great and the best way to defeat this without even having to hurt other human beings. And then whenever everybody is homeschooling, you don't have to have somebody in charge of the education, because why do you even exist? Your job exists and nobody even takes their kids to your schools. So pop off. And then whenever they don't pop off, you just pop. Now, legal personnel of white cell. Prosecuting attorneys and criminal court judges are one of those targets of happenstance. They are legal entities that have already been bought and paid for, and not even because of any they-them crazy conspiracy. This is just because they're going to charge red cell members according to the law. Remember, this series is on the violent overthrow of governmental systems, not on how to change them necessarily for the better. Red cell is likely going to be tried, and because of the necessary extreme violence of red cell and red cell members, they're probably going to be sent to prison for life, or killed on the X, or sentenced to death after the fact. Or, in all reality, if you were caught by federal services of any type, you're going to find yourself in a black site kind of like Guantanamo and questioned all the time and never released ever again, because they don't think that you're humans. Anyway, if those judges no longer exist, red cell is not going to be able to be tried. And again, on the other hand, this is going to garner federal attention. Blue force from the feds can and has been defeated recently, however, not through overwhelming firepower. But at this point, we're talking about using the firepower. This brings us to holding cells and prison destruction. This is an infrastructure that red cell will want to destroy, specifically because of its use against the populace as a whole and its use against red cell. The prisons themselves are very difficult to deal with, not only because we're talking about unaliving guards and the people that work there, we're also talking about unaliving all the people inside because we don't know who they are or what they are capable of. This is one of those crazy things where, is it unjustifiable? Because you, as a red cell member, cannot be sure of those on the inside, what their capabilities and powers and ability to leave are. So you can't just kill the guards and then leave the gates locked and say, have at it, guys. Sorry, they're going to get out. The only thing I can assure Red Cell is that there's already a power vacuum. You're creating more of a power vacuum as Red Cell, and if you leave those people in prison alive, they are going to attempt the very same spaces they're going to attempt to fill the same spaces that you were attempting to fill. This is probably the only scenario where there isn't a good answer. I cannot make a great solution for this scenario, and you're going to have to be the bad guy in totality. You can't be sure what each person is in prison for, even after looking at records, because they could have only been hit with one or two of the charges that were brought against them. So it could totally just be a really bad guy, and he got let off the hook because he turned in his brothers or the other gangbangers or his, friends, associates, whatever. He turned them in and had the charge, half of the charge dropped. You can't be sure of what those actual charges are. So this is a potential situation where, yeah, you're killing gangbangers and drug dealers, but you're also killing the very, very few people who are in prison without cause or falsely prosecuted or who are guilty of, little misdemeanors where they had fines that they were too poor to pay. However, this is something that I think would have to be done to ensure that there are no holding areas for Red Cell warfighters, meaning there's not a good, oh, hey, we already have a prison built up, let's vacate the prison, which they're going to vacate the prison anyway. We already saw that they did that in California. They vacated the prisons during COVID and let all these heinous criminals out because they're going to start trying to pack those full of Red Cell supporters and other green forces that they, whatever. You don't agree with us, you're going straight to jail. Right? Okay, now the sheriff's department. What I can say here is pay the fuck attention to your sheriff's actions and words. If you can live with the department or even help with the department, okay. But if you cannot allow them to continue operating the way that they operate, which would probably be in most of the cases, even out in the counties, because you're going to have some douchebag who has a badge and throws his weight around. I think Painted Creek, this place in the middle of fucking nowhere in West by God, Virginia, right? The green forces, right? All the normal townspeople, there is a sheriff's deputy there who has been, I think he's got 5 kills under his belt. And all the green forces want this asshole fired. And they just can't get rid of him because he is fully backed by the government. The department backs him, and the legal white cell system backs him as well and has protected him. And some of these are circumstances where, yeah, okay, maybe it was a self-defense shooting and he needed to shoot somebody, or some of the cases where it was an unarmed, very old drunk man who was shot in the face, execution style, and we're just going to let this guy run around. So no, you're probably going to have to make that distinction for yourself and actually look into the histories of all the people who are working for that sheriff's department. And in a lot of cases, some long-range target interdiction might be in order for the sheriff and the department members. Just remember that whatever Red Cell does in our wartime is going to be seen as criminal until we're at full war. However, it is only criminal or treason if you lose. Now, politician slaying, yes, but Red Cell really has 3 options here for White Cell members. They are going to use option 1 100% of the time, all the time, which is Blue Force is coming for you, Red Cell. But if you are directly targeting White Cell only, yeah, there's a very slim possibility that Blue Force might ignore you, but highly probable they're going to continue doing what they're doing, which is enforce unjust laws. They're going to say that exact same statement that they make all the time, which is, hey buddy, I don't make the laws, I'll just enforce them, while flashing a badge and a gun in your face. Now, option 2 for White Cell is death. White Cell members often see themselves as above you filthy Red Cell apes and can't even dream of being directly attacked by Red Cell. White Cell has been conducting a very one-sided and successful war campaign against Green 4 and Op 4 through laws and Blue 4 heavy-handedness. which is exactly what creates red cell members. Red cells' main targets to unalive are white cell. So blue 4 is just kind of in the way. If you don't have to attack blue 4 and you can just get rid of white cell, get rid of white cell. But sometimes you got to unalive blue 4 too, just because they're in the way. Again, though, if you can first attack white cell directly as your primary target, that is the preferred option. However, there are such things as secondary white cell targets, and this is because we're at a total war. They're already trying to kill you. They tried to make you take a jab that is going to kill you and is killing 100,000 people a day right now. More people are dying from injections than they are from diseases. So that secondary target is a white cell family member. Mom, dad, husbands, wives, and adult children are all secondary white cell targets. Now, adult children are still children of the white cell members, but I will not ever advocate for the murder of youth. All right? They already advocate for the murder of youth all the time, constantly and consistently for population control. I will never advocate for the death of the young. That is just crazy. They really have no control over what their parents are doing, and I'm not going to visit the sins of the father upon the head of the son unless that is an adult person, because now you're using a different kind of pressure, which is option 3. White cell has the money to run away. If white cell runs away, this is still a win for red cell. You don't have to bring them justice if they can no longer operate in your AO. If you make sure that white cell is not allowed to be in your county or in your state or in your nation, that is a win, right? The Taliban did not have to kill all the white cell members from the United States in order to get the United States white cell out of Afghanistan. But we're not touching their stuff anymore. China is, so they're probably going to have to fight China very soon. But yeah, it's still a win if white cell runs away or if we force them to run away. Anyway, it also requires that if, hey, we as red cell couldn't kill you as white cell, we still have to destroy any source of revenue they might have access to in the county, state, and finally country by refusing to buy or sell products that are not produced in that county. Now, how do you do that? Well, you're able to make environmental attacks, the exact same types of attacks that environmental terrorists make constantly and consistently, but you're doing it to kill their economic engine. They happen to own Monsanto. You destroy as many everything that is Monsanto all the time, constantly and consistently, and they decide, wow, this is untenable. We're going to have to go move to Haiti, and then, Haiti doesn't want them, right? And that kind of steals all their money because they have to try to fight you destroying their things, right? You don't have to kill them, just destroy their things. The only thing that sucks about this is if you want steel in your county, you might need to make steel yourself. But total destruction of their production capabilities is going to guarantee that those people are not coming back. This is an option that was taken by the Taliban, but when they replaced the US production system, they did not create their own production system, and China is really now in control of the nation of Afghanistan, and the Taliban will likely have to create a land that is untenable for the Chinese as well. But for right now, and I think this was, part of the whole Biden regime thing, China is in charge for the most part in Taliban. They are allowed to operate with impunity to get that golden road through Afghanistan. And Afghanistan, if anybody knows how to read a map, touches China, so that's not a hard thing for China to do. Now, becoming white cell. At the end of the conflict, which is probably going to take 20 or so years and could be longer or even permanent, depending on if we actually remove all these positions, you're going to want to become white cell. Remove all unnecessary positions because no one is going to represent you better than you. Remove laws and restrictions, meaning why can't people carry weapons of any type? Don't give me they might be violent, right? okay, fine, just don't initiate violence or allow them to initiate violence. If a dude carries a gun or a knife, that doesn't matter. Having and bearing weapons is not a cause for concern in my mind. I don't care what their ideology is, but because this is the only way that they, as a human being, can truly defend themselves. Are they a communist? Cool. You can talk it out with them and educate them that communism doesn't work. I got it. The red cell game, there is a lot of death, but we're not attacking civilians. But in the fourth industrial revolution, they are already talking about how to kill, starve, and get rid of the entire mass of the human population, right? So I would rather get rid of the white cell members, which are less than 1% of the population, than 90% of the population, so that the 1% can control another 9% of the population and say, oh, this is the way it always was, because nobody else is going to be there to tell them they were wrong. Find out their name. Talk to them like another human being, because most of us that are in the same, we're all just trying to make a living, they are also humans. If you don't like their point of view, you don't have to listen to it, but having weapons is everybody's right. If someone initiates violence, okay, I get it, end the violence fast with other violence, because that's usually the fastest way to get it done. But you can talk and even get angry without initiating physical violence. Just don't do taunts, because it's really dumb. But you don't need to make threats. And especially, let's, bring it down back to, are we following Christ? Are you making threats to strangers for having a different point of view? No, right? But there's a season for war, and there's a season for peace, and I think that season for war is right now, and it needs to be as much war as possible. Let's get it out of our systems, and then go back to a season of peace. I don't want war. It sucks, right? Nobody likes seeing their friends die, and it takes a part of you whenever you're killing somebody else, right? You kill a part of yourself whenever you're just killing random other humans. Right, so let's not make it random. Let's make it surgical and end it. However, let's go back to the whole Christ and God thing. You are allowed to fight evil, and it's my full belief that that's what we're fighting now, right? God gave weapons to the archangels because he knows you can't destroy evil with words and talking. Talking can only do so much. Remove all taxes. Punishing people for owning their own property that's a huge part of what got us in this predicament. A singular sales tax that is rendered to the county only is a very good way to ensure that everybody pays their fair share. It doesn't go based on what you made. It goes on, oh, hey, did you buy something? Cool beans. Right? And the government isn't going to be able to do much, and this is kind of the whole point. It's not the government's job to get in my way so that somebody else can get in front of me or have the same things as me. It's literally only the government's job to ensure that our rights are upheld. The government doesn't need money. And a sales tax of 10% going as the revenue for that county would make the county very strong. The county would only give 10% of their own tax revenue to the state, ensuring that the state government stays small. And the state would only give 10% of their total earnings from all of their counties to the federal government, ensuring that the federal government stays small. No other taxes should or could be rendered, and credit must be annihilated. Taxes in the form of certificate or license are also going to have to be removed. The only thing necessary to run a business should maybe be the name and a location. But there cannot be a price or limitation dictating on whether or not one can become an entrepreneur. For actual progress, and I'm not talking about lefty progressiveness, I'm talking about the good for all humankind. If you let people run around and do whatever they want, they will surprise you with what they are able to do. However, I would limit, and I mean severely limit, as in, oh, you don't live in America and you're not an American. I would limit foreign-owned business from being able to operate in the United States or within the county. Again, start out in your county. Oh, you have some random Chinese-owned company that is in your county? Yeah, we're going to make sure that that's not there. there's, what is it, North Carolina, there is an Israeli-owned fake 3D printing processing plant for 3D printed meat, right? 3D printed proteins that we don't even know how this is going to interact with our human body. But they're building a massive, the largest one in the world. And I think that is, as a whole, to weaken the United States and then say, all right, people of the United States, you're no longer allowed to eat regular meat. It has to be this 3D printed meat, right? Slippery slope, but crazier things have happened just this year. Credit in banks must be annihilated, as well as loans or the ability to loan money that does not exist. Banks must be restricted to a county in their reach and unable to be publicly traded. They must be hindered by law from being able to loan money they do not actually possess, and the loan percentage must hit a very low cap, like 2%. Ever. Period. For eternity. Credit as a whole cannot exist. Now, Blue 4 from outside your county must also never be allowed to operate or make arrests in your county. If the FBI, which is going to have to be destroyed on the federal level and no longer exist, but if that type of police steps in and attempts to step in, they must be physically removed by the county, and if they trespass again, imprisoned. Same for the state police. The only thing I could say that would be good to consent to is for new Blue 4 units being sheriff's departments only, and that they should be able to get mandatory training to be a part of the sheriff's department. And I think that the sheriff's department training should be about 6 months long. But deputies are not going to be confirmed by the sheriffs, right? Usually it's just the sheriffs that's like, oh, okay, hey, cool, we'll send you to the police program, you'll go to the police program, you come back and you work as a deputy. No. Just like the sheriff, the deputies must be confirmed by the populace of the county. Their powers and legal protections must be severely restricted to being the exact same as per citizen. The only difference in being a deputy is that being a deputy is their day job, right? Yes, sure, they can carry a gun, but literally so can everybody else. So fuck off and step down, right? Taxes are collected in the sales tax, and therefore the fees the sheriffs, this frees up sheriffs to be elected peace officers with a severe limitation, being you're not going to get a lot of them, right? So that's protection one. And two, they all have to be voted in by the populace for a very short amount of time. I would say like 2 years, and then the population comes in and says, you know what, you did an okay job, we're okay with the things that you did, and if we're not okay with the things that you did, guess what? It's been 2 years, you're terminated, see you later, bye. An immediate cap on service in elected positions. Aside from very few emergency services like fire departments and EMS crews, a cap on every elected position must be placed, and they should have to live and work in the county. No one county position should be filled by people outside of the county. Newcomers are obviously welcome if they live in the county. As for law enforcement or the sheriff's department, yes, they do deserve a pension and show, obviously fire departments should get a pension, but fire departments don't have anything to do with law. They just go out there and save people. EMS crews, they just go out there and save people. Obviously, if you're working as EMS or fire department for a very long time, and I say that because fire departments do come up with fire regulations all the time, but fire is one of those really dangerous things where if it gets out of whack, then yeah, sure, maybe a couple of regulations, but I also don't believe in having regulations on, oh, hey, you like cooking hot dogs in your backyard over a fire pit. Okay, yeah, that's we're getting a little too far into the weeds with that, right? You shouldn't have powers over somebody else's house whenever they're just trying to live their best life, right? Anyway, yeah, they should get a pension for having served, but with the sheriff, it's a very law enforcement position, right? I think sheriff's departments should probably have the limits. I would submit that limits need to be placed on length of time one can serve as the sheriff. Maybe not necessarily how long they work on the sheriff's department, but their service in the sheriff's position. And I would say that that position should not be allowed to be more than 2 consecutive terms, period. So like 2 terms on, maybe they lose they can't be in there the next term, and then maybe they can go back to have another term if they are that fucking good and are actually serving the people. But this is a good way to ensure that, oh, hey, he's abusing his power. Well, it doesn't matter because he's out next year, right? He's not allowed to do that. All right, in conclusion, we've gone over who is white cell, what white cell violence looks like. Can white cell be defeated? Yes. White cell infrastructure and becoming white cell. That is the end of this transmission, and that was way too long, you guys. All right, bye.